This is Energy Perspectives, a weekly podcast produced in Guyana that delves into the developments unfolding in the world's fastest growing economy. Here is our host.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Energy Perspectives podcast. I am Kiana Wilberg, and I am joined by the Dominican Republic's ambassador to Guyana, Ernesto Torres Pereira. Sir, welcome, and thank you for being here with us.
On the contrary, thank you so much for the invitation.
All right, so we have a few questions for you, and I'd like to jump right in. How does the Dominican Republic view Guyana's evolving role in the regional energy security landscape?
Well, we have perceived Guyana as a potential paradigm for sustainable development, not only because of the great opportunity offered by nature's bounty, but also because of the sound leadership that is guiding the process. President Luis Abinader and President Irfan Ali have developed a relationship that I could describe as a fraternity. And this relationship is based first on values, second on vision, and third, precisely on the regional perception of development. Both of them have been very coherent in speaking not only about their individual countries' wealth and prosperity, but the prosperity and security of the whole region. So we believe that Guyana has an extraordinary opportunity to continue developing the leadership, the regional leadership, and playing a role in ensuring the stability, not only in energy, but also because of the characteristics of the country and the potential for the country to develop other areas, to be a factor of stability and security in many other fields of the economy.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, you spoke to the shared interest between the two presidents of our nations. What are some key areas in the energy sector, however, do you believe the Dominican Republic can learn from or contribute to the Guyana experience where oil and gas is concerned?
I think both, because as you know, we have, for example, we have our own, oil refinery, yes, which was established precisely 51 years ago. And we consume around 150,000 barrels per day. But we do not produce oil nor gas. So we can learn from Guyana's experience when it comes to developing this specific area. And when it comes to Guyana learning from us, we have a very robust private sector that has been guiding and leading the process of development of the Dominican Republic. And as you know, we are definitely the strongest economy in the region. There are areas where we will be collaborating actively with Guyana, where Guyana can learn from us, for example, in the area of tourism, sustainable agriculture, development of infrastructure. We even have 2 subway lines in the city of Santo Domingo. And when it comes to education, we have also advanced, especially in higher education. We have to make some efforts to strengthen our primary education system. But I think there are plenty of areas where we can learn from each other.
Thank you, Ambassador. And you touched earlier on a refinery which the Dominican Republic has. And I recall that Guyana and the Dominican Republic signed several MOUs last year, one of which served to pave the way for an exploration of a modular refinery. Can you give us any insight into how that's going?
Yes, actually, the MOUs which were signed during President Ali's visit to the Dominican Republic in August of last year include the true and real possibility of building a refinery with the direct participation of the Dominican Republic. In the scheme, we will have a 51% share, and we will also be a very active off-taker of the resources. Initially, I believe the project involves 50,000 barrels per day.
Yes.
But we wish it could be even bigger, because the needs of both countries will exceed that, and the needs of the region as well.
Yes.
But for the moment, yes, this is the base of the project. The Dominican private sector is the one that is directly involved in this possibility, together with the government of the Dominican Republic. We also believe that the approach that Guyana has adopted when it comes to offering the private sector the possibility of spearheading these projects, I think is very correct, because in the regional experience, when you have the government running such sensitive and key elements, it opens the possibility for lack of transparency, for if I can be completely honest, for nepotism, when you have this type of enterprises being run by governments. This has been the experience. I'm not saying that this will happen, but also sometimes inefficiency. So I believe having the private sector guiding this type of projects gives some assurance that things will be handled in a more transparent way. So this is why I believe that scheme that has been developed will be very effective and efficient.
Thank you, Ambassador. Also, on the topic of a modular refinery, can you expound for us on the importance of such a facility to regional security? And given the fact that Trinidad, one of the longest oil producers of the region, they were not able to continue these or sustain a refinery. They had to close down Petrotrin, as is well known. Do you think Guyana holds the potential to return the region to its glory days of refining oil and gas?
Listen, not only to the glory days of refining oil and gas, I think Guyana, and I will share this with you, and I believe in my first conversation with President Ali, I shared also this vision. Before being posted in Guyana, I was Dominican ambassador to Israel. Mm-hmm. When I shared with my colleagues at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel that I was coming to Guyana, of course, they expressed, we feel sad that you're leaving, but Ambassador, you cannot imagine how lucky you are that you're going to a country with such potential. Just imagine if us, the Jewish nation, would have been established in a country with that kind of wealth, not only in terms of oil and gas, because they said, no, here we don't have oil and gas. Well, now they have gas offshore. But when the original project of the nation started, they were basically based in the desert. Mm. And they were able to make the desert bloom. So they told me, imagine the possibilities that Guyana has. Just imagine, yes. Just with the wealth of the land, forget oil, they say, forget oil juice. And also they recognize the sound leadership of President Ali. Said all the factors are aligned for Guyana to serve as a model for the whole world. Also, because here in Guyana, and I've noticed it myself, you have a peaceful, integrated society in spite of its diversity. Mm-hmm. So you don't even have the challenges of a divided society, of a society with challenges. Mm-hmm. So I believe Guyana, just like, this anecdote that I'm sharing with you, I believe Guyana can serve really as an element of stability for the whole region, not only in oil and gas, in many other areas.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'd like to follow up on that. What other areas do you see Guyana being a model state for the region?
For example, that what I just said, this is an intangible. But the fact that you have a diverse society which lives in harmony, this is intangible. This is the soft,
Yes.
issue, and it's not the notion of tolerance. Here I see there's an embracing of each other's cultures. Just I was late because of the procession, the parade,
For the Guyana Hindu Dharmic Sabha.
for example.
Yes.
And I see that people who are not Hindu, who don't practice this religion, I see them, patiently, quietly, admiring this procession and understanding this. So everybody embraces here the cultural elements and the traditions of the other ethnic groups, and you live in an incredible, state of, harmony. It's amazing. But going back to the tangibles, you have Guyana in Arawak language is precisely land of many waters. So you don't only have water, which is a resource that eventually will become very scarce. You have also a huge territory in Caribbean terms, in relative terms in the Caribbean. Fertile land, amazing. You have the whole periodic table. You have a population also. I notice the social tissue here is good. People are warm. People are decent. This is what I felt. Everybody's so enthusiastic. So you can serve also as a paradigm for sustainable development in the protection of the environment, which you are already doing.
Yes.
And sustainable agriculture, I think you can develop here practically all the crops if you manage it properly. And you have the land for that. You have the land for that. And you have the know-how of a lot of countries that have already gone through the processes, which you can use to implement policies from the beginning now. This is like a renaissance, This is a possibility for Guyana to have a renaissance and do things the right way from the beginning. You have a very small population. So you can even correct these little details that you believe are not good in the long run. You have to do something about those crazy buses in the street.
Yes.
And you have to do something also about inflation.
Yes.
Because we've lived in Japan, in Switzerland, in Paris, in Seoul, and in Tel Aviv. And this city is as expensive as these major cities.
Oh, wow.
So there's something to be done about that. But going back to our topic, I think in all these areas, mining, you can also develop your mining industry now that you have the resources and use modern, last generation, how do you call it? Last generation standards, latest generation standards. You can do so many things here. So you can do everything. I think for Guyana, especially if you're able to have the leadership of someone like President Ali, who has a work ethic, is unbelievable. This man, I've been very fortunate to spend time with him, and his mind never stops, and all his energy is precisely focused on how to develop Guyana, how to also, he has done an incredible diplomatic job. People are looking at Guyana not only because of the resources, because there are countries that probably have even more resources than Guyana, but they cannot have this type of relationship, functional, fluid relationship with the whole world, integrating the whole world to that vision of progress. You have done a fantastic diplomatic work here. People have become friends of Guyana, and that is a direct consequence of the diplomatic work of the government.
Thank you, Ambassador. On that note, I'd like to ask you, how do you see the future of cultural ties and exchanges between Guyana and the Dominican Republic? And can you touch on some key similarities between the two nations that ought to be celebrated?
Well, honestly, one of the areas that enjoy the most in diplomatic work is precisely promoting culture. This diversity that you have, and this idea of living together in harmony is something that should be promoted and projected. Our society, in spite of the diversity of the phenotypes, I have cousins that are, my wife is from Russia, for example, and she's extremely white with blue eyes, blonde. And I have cousins that are first cousins, same blood, that are also, white with blue eyes. And I have cousins that are dark like Wesley Snipes, and we all sit on the same table with the same family. So we have a diversity in terms of the phenotype. But you had a diversity that goes beyond skin color. So we're more homogeneous. In your case, all these cultural elements coming together makes this society a very unique case. Very, very unique. Not only the issue of embracing them, no, but what you have was your cultural powerhouse. It's just that in the past, because of how unknown Guyana was, you might have not been able to showcase it to the world. In our case, we have very powerful cultural elements. The music, the literature, even cinema we're developing, the tobacco. There's a cultural element here that we share, which is the rum. Which is the rum, and it's not just the rum as the drink itself, as the beverage, but the whole culture behind it. We also have the cigars, which we are actively promoting here. We're going to be opening cultural spaces. You know that our embassy was established very recently, so we're still in the process of settling down.
Okay.
But once we are more organized, that we can start developing cultural activities, we will be able to have these cultural exchanges. And we want the Guyanese people to know us. And in order to know us, you need to understand our culture. We're very similar in the family values. We're very similar in the open attitude, in the welcoming attitude. We're very similar also not because we share the history, the historical process of the region, the African descendants that came from Western Africa to work in the plantations and all that. But we share a lot of common codes because of where we come from. You cannot imagine the amount of codes that we share, and I'm witnessing them now that I'm here. So after exploring the Guyanese society, when I become also more aware of the little subtleties, we are going to start promoting these cultural elements that we have, that I believe will be very attractive to Guyanese people, and will make them become more interested in our culture. Also, as a government policy from Guyana, Spanish will be considered the second language, which I believe is a very forward-thinking approach, because you are basically surrounded by Hispanic-speaking countries, and you will not only be able to learn a language. Once you learn the language, you will be able to dig into precisely the literature, the music, cinema, and all the other cultural elements that compose each individual society. In Latin America, Hispanic America, let's say, and we could say Latin America because Brazil is included, with whom you share a border. There's a sense of fraternity. Whenever I've been abroad and I meet someone, it doesn't matter, from Mexico to Tierra del Fuego in Chile, we meet and we hit it off immediately, because we we already know each other, not only because of the language, but in all of Latin America, they recognize artists from the Dominican Republic, for example. Most of the people, when they choose to visit the Caribbean, where do you think they go for vacation in Latin America? They either go to Punta Cana, Santo Domingo, or they go to Cancun in Mexico. You see, these are in the narrative of the whole continent. People recognize us as an alternative if they want to go have a fantastic Caribbean vacation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not just because of the amazing beaches that we have, but the cultural content that we offer. The merengue, the bachata, mm-hmm. the warmth of the people. And this music, both of them, they come with their own dance. And the dance is super attractive. This is something because, we have African blood. You will be able to dig immediately the rhythms, yes. And to dance them properly without a lot of training. Because it's in your DNA. So we have to create these connections so we can continue to build the bonds. And also, something that will be a game changer is that from February 18th, we will have direct flights to Santo Domingo from Georgetown.
Wow. Well, that is definitely something to look forward to.
So this will not only give you the opportunity to come and visit for leisure, business will also prosper with this direct connection. So we're extremely, extremely excited with the prospect of being able to enhance the exchange of people and goods with this direct flight. The company that will start the route is called Sky High, and they will have 3 flights per week. So it's an Embraer E190, so it has the capacity for 97 passengers. So I think to start, it will move things even faster and further.
Well, that is definitely an interesting development that I'm sure many stakeholders would look forward to and would be pleased to learn from this podcast. So thank you for that. Ambassador, as we wrap up this week's podcast, I'd like to close by asking you to share a message with conference attendees about the Dominican Republic's vision for energy cooperation in the region.
Well, you're going to have the conference very soon.
Yes.
And I believe this is a very important space for Guyana to show the advances that they have achieved in last 5 years, and for the participants from all over the world that are coming to exchange views on how to precisely make this prospects, these wonderful prospects of Guyana, a very strong reality to generate synergy and contacts that will maximize the potential. We will have actually participation from the Dominican Republic. I don't know if you're aware. The CEO and chairman of InterEnergy, Rolando Gonzalez Bunster, will be one of the speakers. And he has developed a system that serves as a paradigm for many other countries in the region. They're trying to emulate their advanced systems. And recently he came to Guyana and signed an MOU with GPL in order precisely to share best practices and for Guyana to learn from their experience in this process that you are now developing your own infrastructure and strengthening your capacities. So the message, I believe, would be to continue being coherent in the implementation of best practices and to allow the private sector with the right supervision to perform their magic, because everybody is looking at Guyana with that vision that you can serve as a paradigm for sustainable development to the world. So be coherent.
Thank you, Ambassador. Surely that's an excellent message for us to end on. And to our viewers, thank you as well for joining us. This has been this week's episode of the Energy Perspectives podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Guyana Energy Perspectives podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Register today for the Guyana Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo, coming to Georgetown, Guyana, February 19 to 22, 2024.